Otsukimi here. Who else would it be? This is May 28th, almost May 29th. And this is just kind of a Bitcoin update. It's kind of a market video update overall. I have been trying to do a series of videos. I haven't been able to do observations with Otsu. I'm not doing Bitcoin brief either. We had a few things coming up with the family situation too. I got to take my son to the doctor for something that kind of came up. He should be okay. It's nothing really like an emergency necessarily, but it is something that we need to take precautions out and looking at that. So I've been very preoccupied with family stuff, and family does come first. As much as I really enjoy making videos for you all and doing all that. So and you guys know that that's all. Unless you're anyway, you guys understand, I'm sure. So for this video, I'm just going to look at just kind of a brief overview on Bitcoin and Ethereum. I think I'll just keep those two in mind. But I'm also going to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. I'm also going to look at the total market cap 1, 2, and 3. So kind of just doing an overview, a little bit different. I mean, this is not necessarily, a YouTube video or anything like that. Like, that's not my intention. I'm just kind of throwing this out there. I wanted to do this. And to be honest with you, one reason I do these videos is, of course, for you guys, but also I do these for my sake as well, to give me insight on the market. I just hit record sometimes, share you what my thoughts are, and it helps me give context for other things, whether that's altcoins or different time frames or different things I might see. And so that really helps me. So we'll get started here. And real quickly, by the way, like if you like videos like these, I do have a Patreon. You can check that out. The link is in the bio if you're on X. If it's on YouTube, it's going to be in the description. Go ahead and check that out. I have it's the Patreon is also a Discord. It's 2 in 1, by the way. I think a lot of people think it's just Patreon where I'm just uploading videos, which is true. But you also get a link to Discord where you can do community chats and 2 trading portfolios. We have 2 of them. One is just a regular Blowfin account. I am partnered with Blowfin on that, so you do get a special link to get discounts on fees. The other account is a DeFi wallet account, and that where we look at things like small caps, things like that. And so those are 2 different aspects. You also have a private video coming up tomorrow, I believe, about the basics of Arun, and we're going to cover that a little bit. I might actually have to postpone that depending on how the appointment with my son goes. But as of right now, it should still be good to go. So, and then there's a few other things as well. So I don't want to make this whole video about that, but go ahead and check that out. I do give 50% off for the first month as well. So anyway, that being said, let's get started here. So first things first, I think I'll start with Bitcoin, and then I'll retroactively go to the dominance chart and the total market cap. So we'll do Bitcoin and Ethereum first. So, excuse me, I was sneezing a lot, and so if I sniffle, I do apologize. So, with the daily here, actually, these are 2 different charts on here. I'm going to show you the one on Binance first, and it doesn't matter if it's Binance or Coinbase, but we have a big pitchfork, bullish channel, whichever you want to call. We're basically right at the midline of the weekly chart. It's actually even better to see on the 2-week chart, and so that's kind of what we're looking at. Really, it's really ever since February of last year, so it's a pretty big channel. This should stay in play for some time. We're right at the midline here. If we go above this zone, we are going to go parabolic. The problem is, even if we go, even if we wait until like August, we still got to go to like 135. So if we can touch above that zone, the upper end of this channel, which is called, I call it the pre-parabolic trend line, we should supersend. And you think things are good now at 107, I would expect 150 as a modest target. A lot of people, targets are all over the place. I've seen some people think that we're going to stop at like 120, or even lower than that. I'm like, well, we're basically there, right? I personally think that we're going to go to like 210, 220. I saw one for like 400,000, and I think that might be a little overstated. We'll see. And the one thing I've learned in the crypto world is that I do tend to be too conservative, and I think a lot of people do too. Like you underestimate how wild things can get. So we'll see. You never know. Anyway, we're stuck here in the mid for now. On the And so that's pretty much the weekly, but I'm going to switch to the other one for the daily because this gives the context for a little bullish channel here. So we kind of have two channels going on. But the thing is, with the daily, we just broke down here, and it actually broke the mid just barely here on the 107.879. And so I think that we're going to go down to this 106.285. Should get there by the next 24 hours, I would say. We don't have to, but I think that we will. Should be pretty easy to get there. It's only a couple of percentages. And then we could get to the band here. So it's like less than one. It's about one. Let's just say 1.5%. Be generous there. We do have an Aaron band here at about 105.583. So that's also a way to keep this in mind with the Aaron band structure. Now we did close inside the band, so now we're neutral here again. So if you're thinking about doing longs here, I personally would be waiting because the band reset. And so if we can get it move out above the band, then I'm interested in a long again. So we'll see. Now, another danger of this is we don't want to close below the 106.285 because that will cause a deviation for this entire frame. And then we're going to go back down. Okay, for the 2 week, we already have a bear div here. And so that's already not good. There are a lot of people that think that we're just going to rally here. And I strongly disagree. I think that we can still go higher from now. And I think it may be as high as 20%. And I'm kind of spitballing that, but I still think that we'll go down at some point. I don't think that we're going to rally all the way to the top here right now. I do think that we're going to get. I do think June is going to be much. I think June's going to be very underwhelming. More underwhelming than people are going to realize. And so we'll see. And I've said this before. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I got bullish right around this area right here, basically back in middle of April, around the 85,000 marker. And a lot of people were bearish there. And now that we're up here, people are starting to finally get bullish. And this is where, okay, those of you in our Patreon group, we took profits about, just right around 2 weeks ago. And we are looking for some opportunities to get back in, but a lot of these don't have those opportunities anymore. So we're just chilling, and we're completely fine. We made over 480% in the past month with those positions that we had. So we're just kind of chilling right now, and that's the thing. If you get these wins, you can quote unquote afford to just chill out and wait for those larger moves or a more impactful move. So still kind of waiting on that. Now, what if you are interested in the longs here? Well, the channel is already broken here, so we really need to get above the 109.472. Honestly, that's probably the first bit. The second bit would really just be a full reclaim of this at like basically 112. And that's where you're going to have a stacked bids here for the top side. And so we'll see where that goes. It's like I said, I'm mostly confident that we're going to go down. I'm not 100% either way. I still think it could go either way. And anything can go either way, right? For this at least. But I'm about 65 to 70%. I'd say maybe 70%, 75% sure that we're going to go down. So we'll see how it goes. Aaron does tend to confirm this. We do have you have the contrasting trends from the upside and downside, but we are getting that consolidation finally, and this could lead to a wedge, which could mean an accelerated down move. Okay, RSI is already kind of floating around. Nothing really worth saying with that. So that's kind of the update for Bitcoin. I'm going to go to Ethereum real quickly and look at this from a zone here. You have this kind of marker here. I'll just keep that up, I guess. So I'm looking for a range break of either side. If we do, this is kind of what I'm looking at. But overall, we're kind of stuck within this range. I quite like this. Now, the problem is we already just faded this a couple of percentages. So Ethereum has a chance to look really good here. And this is why I want to talk about Bitcoin dominance, actually. And, we'll throw ETH BTC as well, even though I don't think it's worth much anymore. But we have, this order block zone, but we also have this one here. And so I think that's even more of a key level here is about $2,820. So I think both of those are very impactful for that. We did have a low bullish cross, 32%. Not exactly what you want to see. You want to see higher than 50. I mean, anything's better than nothing. A cross of any percentage is better than none at all. Better than no cross. but you do want to get that 50%, which we did not get. So we'll see where this goes. We actually have something similar here, where we had the low cross here at the low side. The bullish cross happened at 18%, and then we dropped down immediately after that. And this is kind of what that's looking like as well. So we'll see how that goes with that. Now, let's go to the Bitcoin. Let's go to ETH BTC first. And so we'll use the 2-week chart here. So a few different things going on. We have this retest from before, and I'm already going to mark it here with the fib block. We actually broke below, and now we're kind of reclaiming it. So that's just all good and well. But we have not reclaimed this 25.7 yet, or this 0257, and so probably should reclaim that first. The trouble with ETH BTC is it just doesn't really work too well anymore. I've said this quite often in the past couple of years, but BTC pairs just don't have the reputation that it used to, because for two reasons. One, Bitcoin is a dominant coin. Your Bitcoin pairs are always going to fade and be long-term bearish because Bitcoin has the deflationary aspect to it, whereas something like Ethereum, even behemoths like Ethereum and Solana don't. Okay, so very rarely will you get something outpacing Bitcoin long term. You'll obviously see it short term, but I can't think of one single instance long term. And two, like, people don't trade on Bitcoin pairs anymore. That was something that started when I started in 2017, and we did that maybe until like 2019. And because when I started, UDSC wasn't a thing. Okay, Tether was kind of a thing, but not really. It was, but not like it is now. And UDSC wasn't a thing, and so it was really cool, actually. If I could, just kind of reflect on nostalgia a little bit, because you could stack your Bitcoin pretty well, and I think there is a disadvantage nowadays, because you could buy something like Ethereum, or like, let's say, Aave, or something like that, where once you were done with that, like, a lot of exchanges didn't have stable coins. So let's say you had Aave, you bought Aave, and the trade was over. Well, you would put it back into Bitcoin, and then your Bitcoin would go up too. So, like, let's say your Bitcoin goes up, you trade into Aave, Aave goes up, and then you're done with that, so it goes into Bitcoin, Bitcoin goes up, and so it would stack. Now, sometimes it would go down as well exponentially, but it also would go up, and that gave a very big advantage. In fact, again, if I could just reflect a little bit, right around here, at about late 2018, I actually kind of gave up in crypto a little bit here, about late 2018, right before I think when it dropped down from like 6,300. Like, I started like right here basically, and we were going through some real life things, but I kind of just gave up here because I had other things to do, and then I just let it sit, and I sold all of my altcoins, but I sold it into Bitcoin, and then I rode this the whole way, and I was like, wow, I actually made quite a bit of money here. And so, I mean, not a lot, but just relative, I guess, to what my experience was. And so that's kind of kept me in the game. But that's one thing that really worked. You don't have that now. You don't have that now at all. And so the ETH BTC, in my opinion, is a little weak. We could see, that a jump here. This is really kind of what I want to see. A flip above 50 would really be ideal, which we have not gotten since February of 2023. So something to be said. Maybe we'll get that. But it doesn't look too bad. This is a 2-week chart, by the way, but it doesn't look too bad, but we'll see. So let's go to Bitcoin dominance chart, because that's really, in my opinion, what makes or breaks an altcoin season. We're kind of hit or miss across the board right now, and that's perfectly fine for this time of day. It's about 5 UTC. So with this, looking at this from the structure here, 70% to the upside, 60 to the downside. I had mentioned before that 65% would be kind of a rough area, and we're still kind of consolidating here. I have mentioned before that we kind of need to break down below 60 to get like a real altcoin run. I still think that we could get a decent one, but we really need to get below that 60 marker. And this is held quite well considering, but we have a bearish retest here. And so this is really, this candle is what I'm looking at. This bearish candle here, we kind of retested that, almost got a bear div actually, but not looking too hot here. And so we'll see how this goes. I mean, this has happened before, these ticks here. So like this is the weekly. I'm bouncing all over, but as far as the weekly goes, we're still above the band. We need to get below that band for a run, in my opinion, and definitely below 60%, or once we get to the 50s, that will be the trigger to get into altcoin season. I don't, and this does go with my thesis for June and even July. I don't think there's enough retail here to be interested in altcoins. Now there is other interest for non-retail, but the thing is, we've already had that, right? We've had that with Trump coin, for example, and Trump coin has started at basically 50, and now it's like it's getting ready to flirt with single digits again if it drops down right here, which it's starting to. So we'll see how that goes. I do think there is a lot of interest for altcoins, but nobody wants to take the bait. And so, unfortunately, and again, I'm not saying this for exploitation reason. I'm just saying this is just observations. Usually, when retail comes in, that's when the altcoins come in. People obsessed with dog with hat, for example, and that's not me. There's influencers that try to sell you these coins, and they are basically exit liquidity. And there's nothing you can do about that. That's just how the market cycle works. Once full retail starts to come in, that is the last part of the cycle, almost always. So we'll see where it goes, and it may change. Maybe I do think this cycle is a little bit different as far as market interest. There's not a lot going on. I think in a post-COVID run and post-FTX and Gemini, I think people have been burned too many times. I think the average person, not, usually not me or you, but like the average quote-unquote normie, is not interested in random coins either. Not like they used to, I would say. Because they took a chance, they blew it, whatever, lost money. They don't want to do it. So sticking to the main guns, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. So anyway, let's go to the total market cap. And again, I apologize for all over the place. I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. This is meant to be a more relaxing video. So now with total here, I'm going to first of all delete all this. Go to the weekly here. Okay, so we have one thing I can see here, retest structure here with the fib block, basically right at the mid, had your upside, downside here. So we're retesting this zone. So we need to get above that first of all to get a large enough demand to go to the upside. And that's kind of what I'm spitballing here. If we can get above that, and obviously you're not going to long this, right? But we can... See, I hate this. I mean, we could size the pre-parabolic trend line is pretty sizable here. It's like about a 67% move on the markets, and so that that could be what we need as far as the altcoin run, things like that. We'll see how that goes. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Again, I'm not trading this obviously, but that's kind of what I'm seeing. But we need to get above this 3.4 trillion first. Based off of how the band structures with like this little pinch, we do tend to retest that. I will just say, here's a good example of that, kind of pushed up and then it kind of drops down. That's a small example. Here's another one, kind of hits back into the band, Now, it probably won't happen right away, so this probably will come up a little bit, probably hit about 3.1, 3.2, and maybe continue from there. But I think this looks pretty good. We have a high bullish cross, and that is something to consider. We don't get one very often. Last one we had was in October 23, and that's when we had that rally. And that was basically just above 1 trillion. And we basically went on a straight rally to 2.6. So excuse me. So we more than doubled, so that was pretty good. let's go ahead and go to total 2. And again, I'm looking at all these to kind of form some sort of, I don't want to say narrative, but that's pretty much the word I'm going to use to kind of build a storytelling for the cycle. Excuse me, just a second. All right, apologies for that. Just clear my throat. I always get something stuck in my throat this time of night. So anyway, I did eat right before the recording, so maybe that's why. So with the total 2, again, this is excluding Bitcoin. We have a high bullish cross 56%, so that's pretty good. We have a reclaim of this zone so far. This actually it's currently trying to reclaim. We've attempted this twice now, hasn't done it yet. If this does, then that's going to be pretty good. And now I also want to look at this as this is recovering here. Wrong tool. And so if you do something like this, hit the mid, and even above the highs from the previous zone way back here, it's looking like a 39% run on the market. So the fact that this is reclaiming and hitting a level, a breakout level, where total 1 is at a retest level, that's a good sign. That is a sign that altcoin season might be coming. And maybe not even altcoin season, just an alt rally. I think it is overdue. And we'll see how that goes. I still think market wide we are going to get, so here's kind of what I'm building up towards and what I think might happen. I do think from now until maybe at least the middle of June, if not the rest of June, we're going to get a drop down, roughly about 10% across the board. I think it's going to be more suited to be like a frustrating chop instead, that we're just going to slowly fade, and that's going to be the worst case scenario as far as patience. A lot of you are going to be impatient. A lot of people, maybe not you necessarily, but a lot of people will be impatient. A lot of people will try to trade because they are used to having good trades the past month. And so that's going to lead to a lot of psychological concerns or patterns that you may not be wanting to deal with. So, but the total market cap 2 here looks pretty good. So what I'm looking at here is that we're going to get that drop down, and then we're going to get an altcoin rally, probably in July and August. And then I do apologize. I'm going to try to mute my mic from now on. And so that's how I think that's going to work. Bitcoin's not weak here at all, but I do think it is going to come down a little bit. Altcoins are looking stronger as a whole. And so I think that could lead into something. So, all right, and it's got a high bullish cross too. Total 3 is the last one on this list. And so right here, this is very similar in structure, but it's below this level, and this shows you the effect that Ethereum has. With Ethereum, that we are breaking above the level. Without Ethereum, we are not. This is exactly what I want. This is exactly what I want, because I've mentioned before, and I'll say it again, we need Ethereum for an altcoin rally. We need it. As much as I'm not a big fan of Ethereum anymore, we do need it because it has such a market share. It has a weight on DeFi. It does have utility, things like that. And so that is something that we need. And so far, comparing the total 1 to 2 to 3, total 2 is showing the most promising, which includes Ethereum. So we'll see. And the fact that I think total 2 looks better than total 1 shows you that Ethereum right now is carrying the weight. And that's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we need as well. So in summary, basically, I was all over the place, but the idea of this is I'm trying to shape up something where Ethereum, it could be correlated to an altcoin run. I think Ethereum looks the best of the 3 right now. Bitcoin showing some weakness. Solana is just not doing very good. Not really talking about that much. ETH BTC is starting to reclaim. Bitcoin dominance chart is starting to taper off and drop down after a bearish retest. So the chess pieces are aligning together. We haven't had the action just yet, but we'll see if we get it. So, but let me know what you think. Do you think you agree with me, disagree with me? Happy to have that discussion. So anyway, glad you watched. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.